Anyway, today, going into the Ottawa Police, I've been asked to surrender, face charges for expressing myself at the Freedom Convoy, and I've been deemed that I have to prove that I'm not a danger to society to have my freedom. We'll see what happens. Anyway.
Good morning. No, damn it, I blew it already. We're not even 1 minute into this. Good afternoon, people. It feels like we just saw each other 15 hours ago. And at that time, I said, don't rot your brains watching the Oscars. Grow your brains by listening to me and Robert during one of our amazing live streams. And last night was an amazing live stream. And first of all, I did take my own advice because I did not watch the Oscars. But I caught the clip that has now become the new slap heard round the world. Once upon a time, there was another infamous slap. It was from this television show, like something like America's Got Talent out of India. And this guy, okay, how can she slap? If you have not heard or seen this video, how can she slap? How can she slap? You have to go to YouTube immediately after this live stream. Just put in the word, how can she slap? And don't do the remix. Don't do any montage. How can she slap? It was an internet classic. How long ago was it? I don't know. Because no sense, because we were not listening to last night. We were listening to me, Robert and me. I don't know how old that clip is. How can she slap? But go watch it. But that slap has now been taken over by this slap. There are a number of memes that will necessarily be born out of this slap heard round the world. Will Smith slapping, but how? If it's real, we're going to get into it. Chris Rock. How can he slap? And the other one is going to be slap at the base. There's going to be a meme of slap at the base with Will Smith and Chris Rock. Okay, so look, I said don't rot your brains watching crap. We're going to grow our brains analyzing crap, dissecting crap. And then we're going to get onto the important stuff because this is real or not, fake or not, staged or not. This is crap. It's nonsense. It's gossip. It's idiocy. Then we're going to get into some good stuff. So on the menu, where are my notes? Here are my notes. Let me see this here. There we go. Oscar slap, Tim Pool, Pat King, Ryan Hillier. And I'm going to throw my notes away because I actually don't need them. Udaman Viva, America's favorite Canadian, Daryl Wheat. Wheat, thank you very much. Although that is a W-H-E-A-T, so that might be whet. I'm joking. Wheat. Okay. Thank you very much, Daryl. Standard disclaimers. YouTube takes 30% of super chats. If you don't like that, we are simultaneously on the Rumbles. Let me just make sure that we're all good on Rumble. Rumble has the super chat equivalent known as Rumble Rants. Why can't I find Rumble? What the heck is my problem? Just go to Rumble. Make sure that we're live there. They have Rumble Rants, and Rumble takes 20% of Rumble Rants. So you can feel better supporting a platform you like. Feel better supporting the creator. We look like we are good. We're about 1,000 watching live. This is not a democracy. The country is lost. We're going to get there because people are cheering the arrest of Randy Hillier. I forget the name of his political party. Ontario Provincial Political Party. I think Will Smith just really misunderstood the rules of rock, paper, scissors. Okay, look, we're going to get into it. We're going to break it down, staged or not, and does it make a difference? And I'm going to pull up. I'm not playing the video. Because I know that if I play even that extremely newsworthy clip, whoever owns the rights to the Oscars will claim this entire stream. And I don't care if I do a stream and it's demonetized. I don't care doing a stream and not monetizing it. But I sure as heck am not making money for NBC Universal or whoever else owns the rights to that broadcast, even though it's a newsworthy event. And I'll show you my meme. My meme captures it. Okay, so we got... what's his name? Will Smith slapping Chris Rock after a joke which I didn't even get until I had to research why the joke was so offensive that Will Smith honored his wife's integrity and reputation by getting up and physically assaulting someone in front of millions of people, assuming it's bona fide, because of an insult, because of a joke. Then we're going to talk about Tim Pool very briefly, because he put out a tweet yesterday of what he believes, and I think rightfully so, to be some very interesting similarities between his song Will of the People and the related artwork, and Muse's new song Will of the People and the related artwork. So we're going to get to that, because it's it. Oh, how on earth are we demonetized already? I have reviewed and double checked. Yeah, because we haven't said anything yet, YouTube. I don't have that avatar that Eric Hunley, Unstructured, or America's Untold Story has. Maybe I mentioned Ryan Hillier, and that's a no-go. Or maybe just YouTube likes to do this to soft censor people from discussing the meaningful issues. Will Smith, Tim Pool, and Muse, and whether or not there can be copyright infringement of a song title or related artwork, whether or not there's any cause of action, in my humble opinion, hashtag no legal advice. Then we're going to get into the new charges that are currently being brought against Tamara Litch, Pat King, and the charges against Ryan Hillier. And I will get into it, because some people have the foregone conclusion that I think it's okay to tell people to phone in fake emergency calls to tie up the 911 lines, which I do not categorically, hands down, without exception. And any defense that I offer of Ryan Hillier has actually nothing to do with what might be bona fide charges, but what might be trumped up. The power lies in the accusation charges, but we'll get there. Let's start with Will Smith. Chris Rock has a history of roasting Jada going back to 2016. Absolutely hilarious. And yeah, I heard about the beef where Jada Pinkett wanted to boycott the Oscars. I believe it was for lack of diversity. What's the other one? Diversity, inclusion, and equity in Hollywood. I believe it was for that. And Chris Rock made a joke. Jada Pinkett Smith boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Brianna's undergarments. Neither of us were invited. And look, I didn't know about the what is being referred to as cuckery of I mean, I don't even know what these words mean. I did not know of the backstory about Jada Pinkett Smith and The Rock, I think, and Will Smith. I didn't know about this stuff, and I truthfully, I'd rather not know about it. But all of that is secondary backstory to the slap heard round the world. All right, let me just, I'll bring up my meme, because I think it's a decent meme of the joke. What's his name? Chris Rock makes a joke about he loves Jada Pinkett Smith. Can't wait to see G.I. Jane 2. I didn't get the joke. I noticed that Jada Pinkett appeared to have a shaved head at the Oscars. I didn't actually make the joke connection between G.I. Jane, which was Demi Moore having a shaved head in that movie. And I certainly did not know that Jada Pinkett Smith suffers from a medical condition which causes for, I believe, patchy loss of hair. And so I think the shaving of the head is to make it even. So I don't know if it's alopecia, but I now know that Jada Pinkett Smith suffers from some medical condition which results in the loss of hair. So Chris Rock making the joke that he can't wait to see Jada Pinkett Smith in G.I. Jane 2, could be offensive to the extent it's a medical condition and not a life choice to shave one's head. Can it result in the husband of the individual, who was at first laughing at the joke until I think he looked over and saw that his better half was not happy with the joke, then gets up and slaps Chris Rock in the face? Let me just see where it is. The Academy. Will Smith gave a tutorial on, this is my meme. Will Smith gives a tutorial on how to cover your butt when you get caught laughing at a joke your spouse doesn't find funny. And the joke was this: Jada, I love you. This is verbatim. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. There you have Will Smith laughing and Jada Pinkett Smith not laughing. And there you have, I mean, it's straight up Batman memery. It's straight up Batman slapping Robin, telling him, I don't know how that meme has been used. Now, we're going to drop that out. Let's just have the discussion as to whether or not it was fake or real. There are arguments to be made on both sides, and barring a confirmation, one will never know. Barring a confirmation that the Academy comes out and says this was a staged event, it was a ploy, we knew it was going to happen, we'll never know. It certainly looked staged, and in my humble opinion, before I knew anything, before I heard the uncensored version of Will Smith afterwards saying, "Keep my wife's name out your mother effing mouth," before I heard that part, because it was blocked out on the version that I saw, which I presume came from the American broadcast of the show, it looked fake. You had what looked like Chris Rock leaning into it. It looked like he was leaning forward. Everything from from Will Smith's footwork, it looked like he was tapped. It looked like it was choreographed. Chris Rock leaning in, open hands, smack to the face. It looked scripted. It looked staged. It looked like WWE wrestling. The version that was broadcast was bleeped out, but it was nonetheless broadcast. An act of physical assault was nonetheless broadcast for, I won't say millions to watch. I don't know who's watching this crap anymore, but let's just say at the very least hundreds of thousands. Some people rightly hypothesize that if this were an actual act of unscripted violence, well, instead of just blocking out the audio, there's a time delay for the Oscars. They would have just cut to commercials when that happened. That's a compelling argument. I think it was Red Dawn in the chat who made it as well. That's a compelling argument. If this were an unprovoked, bona fide act of violence, there's enough of a time delay where they would have cut to commercials as opposed to just cut the audio. Okay. Other than looking staged and other than that argument, I don't think this would be staged because, first of all, if it were staged and the Oscars ever comes out and says it was staged, that is, not that there's any brand to preserve with the Oscars, but that is brand ending, brand tarnishing behavior. I mean, that's like you lose all credibility. You become WWE. If it ever were found out, they would lose credibility to the point of ever being able to build it up again. I also don't think it's fake because the Oscars came out with a statement which indicates that they're not confirming it was a fake. So share, screen, Chrome tab. Here we go. I'll go to the original vote, the original tweet, which was, the Academy does not condone violence of any form. Tonight we are delighted to celebrate our 94th Academy Award winners who physically assaulted someone on stage. He won the award first. Yes, the vote was already in. We don't condone violence of any form. And we are celebrating one of the Oscar winners, Will Smith, who won the Oscar, who just performed an act of violence on stage. So I don't think it was staged because I don't think the Oscars would go for it. Maybe the Oscars doesn't know. Maybe they're playing willfully blind, whatever. But they came out with this statement, to which I responded sarcastically. The Academy also does not condone the big B word or child abuse, right? The Academy. And for those of you who don't know, this is Roman Polanski. Admittedly, two of those nominations predated his criminal charges that forced him to flee to Europe to avoid arrest and imprisonment in the United States. But the Oscar winner certainly came after Roman Polanski, did among the worst of the things you can do. And it was known, fled the country to avoid being imprisoned here, to avoid prosecution here. They don't condone violence. They're just, did they delete the tweet? No, they didn't. They don't condone violence of any form. Congratulations, Will Smith. Here's your medal. And we don't condone, that either. Congratulations, Roman Polanski. Here's your medal. A lot of people want to draw that analogy with Weinstein. What did I just do here? What's going on here? Hold on. Stop sharing. Okay. I can't bring down the screen here. Sorry, people. I can't seem to. New tab. Why can't I close? Can't seem to bring back up my StreamYard. Some people want to make the false comparison to Harvey Weinstein. Big difference is that Harvey Weinstein's issues, although known to Hollywood beforehand, only became factually known after the awards at issue, contrary to Roman Polanski, who was a known criminal at the time, and they still allowed him to submit movies to the Oscars and win awards despite that. They don't condone violence. Congratulations, Will Smith. We don't condone bad stuff. Here you go. Take your trophy, Polanski. So I don't think it was fake. I also don't think it was fake because it's not the type of thing Will Smith would want to fake and be known for. So that's that. I don't think it was fake anymore, although it certainly looked it. Chris Rock looked physically shook up afterwards, where he was saying, you know, wow, he didn't even know how to continue going. And it's like, we're here to give a documentary. I'm sorry, give an Oscar for a documentary. It could all be good acting, but I don't think the fake side is the less likely of the alternatives. I think it was real. And in which case, what then? Given Wells' rapid change in attitude and the surprise of the face and tone of Chris saying, I won't. Yep. Yeah, he says, keep your mouth. I won't say it again, Chris. Will, just please don't beat me again on stage. So yeah, I don't think it was fake. And I think if it were fake, it would just be too damaging. So it's not fake, which makes it, you know, just as damaging. This is either, Hollywood is either a freak show of criminals and degenerates, or it's a freak show. What is it? A staged freak show of criminals and degenerates. But Will Smith got up on stage, physically assaulted another colleague, because this is nonetheless a performance. No security to escort him out. He doesn't get escorted out at any point, goes and sits back down, and an individual who was just physically assaulted is supposed to say, yeah, I guess I had that one coming, for making a joke that you found funny for a second until you realized your wife didn't find it funny. And now you have to go out and pick on someone who's quite clearly smaller than you, because I doubt very much Will Smith would have done that to The Rock, but maybe only Chris Rock. Well, who cares? Here's the thing. So this is another one. Who cares? This is a distraction. There's other things to talk about. Okay. Who cares? First of all, a lot of people care because this is emblematic of Hollywood degeneracy. There. It may be trivial, it may be trite, it may be stupid, but it's emblematic of Hollywood degeneracy. And it's the perfect example of why that place and those people need to be avoided pretty much for one's own spiritual clarity, spiritual cleansing. It's a distraction. First of all, it is a distraction. No, because we can talk about more than one thing in a day, as we will. We're going to go from the idiocy of Hollywood to the political insanity of Canada. Other people saying it was staged to bolster Oscar ratings. My theory about that is no, because people are only finding out about this today. Nobody's going to go retroactively watch the Oscars, but for this 30-second clip, which they now know they can get anywhere. They don't need to go watch it. It cannot retroactively increase ratings, and it's not going to make me want to watch it next year because it's stupid. It's garbage. I would probably have forgotten about this by next year, as will everyone else. No one's going to watch the Oscars next year saying, what can be more, what's something more outrageous is going to happen? No. So the idea of faking it for Oscar ratings, which are at record lows now, also doesn't make sense, because it doesn't increase ratings from yesterday, and it sure as heck is not going to increase ratings for next year, in my humble opinion. But we can still talk about other important things after getting through the stupid stuff, as we will. We're lucky to have Chris Rock with us today. Imagine if he'd made a joke. Sorry, I did not read that one before I brought it up, but there are lots of jokes out there. And especially, there's the joke there, but especially in the backdrop of that, where you have Hollywood not ostensibly tolerating an act of violence. They are implicitly, if not explicitly, tolerating it, condoning it. This is what work environment is like in Hollywood. Well, go back to my analysis of Alec Baldwin, the Alec Baldwin shooting and Helena Hutchins shooting. Go back to my analysis of that, whereas my theory, and I'm still standing by my interpretation at the time, was, after I dissected it thoroughly, that I think Alec Baldwin thought he was holding a prop gun, pulled the trigger on purpose, thinking it would make a loud pop that would scare people. Maybe it would maybe it would instill some fear into Helena Hutchins, who, in my opinion, might have been instructing him a little more than grade A actor Alec Baldwin wants from a director of photography, he pulled the trigger of what he thought was a prop gun to scare people into submission. And lo and behold, by some fluke freak accident, it had a real bullet in it. But now we know that Hollywood supports, A-list actors' outbursts. We now know that Hollywood tolerates, supports, condones, and I'll even say promotes outbursts, violent outbursts by top Hollywood actors. And yes, maybe I'm giving Alec Baldwin a little too much credit. Maybe he's not a top Hollywood actor. But we now know that Hollywood promotes it. Hollywood condones it, and Hollywood is not only not condemning it, Will Smith has still got that shiny award, and he went out partying mighty happily after physically assaulting another human being because of a joke about his wife's shaved head. So just that is the Hollywood environment. Violent outbursts will be tolerated. If it had been Dave Chappelle, the Jada jokes would have gone on past me. So who was it that said oh geez, I want to give credit, it was on Twitter. A comedian said that Chris Rock has to do an entire 2-hour special. Roast dedicated, not just to Will Smith, but to the entire family. It's not a bad idea. Are we talking about Will Smith or Will Simp? Okay, another word that I didn't know what it meant until I had to look it up. So that's it. It's emblematic of Hollywood. It's a cesspool of degeneracy, and I have great difficulty now even going back to watch the movies that I loved growing up, except for the ones that actually call out Hollywood for being a cesspool of degeneracy. True Romance is one of them. Pulp Fiction is another. Yep. Okay. All right. So that's that. So those are all the angles. My bottom line takeaway: it was not staged. It was not done on purpose to bolster Oscar ratings, because I don't think it would do that. It's a distraction. Look, yeah, we're gonna talk about this for a bit, and then we're gonna get onto the actual meaningful rubbish that's going on in the world. Will Smith. I did not know the backstory about his marriage. I don't think. Whatever. And that's all I think we have to say about that. She said less than zero. Someone put that joke out there already. Okay, now let's get off the crap and let's get into Tim Pool. Not that it's crap. It's just it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's not all that important in a geopolitical sense, but it's interesting nonetheless. So let me see. I don't want to. I'm not. And again, I'm also not bringing up. And I tweeted out visual comparisons, audible comparisons between the music. I'm not sharing any of that because, as I learned the hard way on the interwebs, YouTubes, music, the license holding companies of music. What's the word I'm looking for? The right. You know what I'm talking about. Who owns the rights to music? Production companies. They are abusively copyrighty, claimy, clingy on the interwebs. All right. This is Tim Pool's Hey Muse. We have questions. And this is, for those who don't appreciate it, this is Tim Pool's song from a year ago called Will of the People. And that's the visual art. And then I think we can do this. No, we can't. Okay. Viva the noob will figure this out. How do I go back? And then this is the Muse new song called Will of the People, and their art related to the song. Same title, same color scheme, same concept of what appears to be statues either being held up by rope or about to be pulled down by rope, depending on your interpretation of it. And then the question is, does this rise to the level of any sort of actionable infringement? I had said something about this, which was, there's the old expression, imitation is the highest form of admiration. And then I said, maybe, but this, same title, same color, we might be getting to a little bit more than imitation. Hashtag not legal advice. I don't want anyone thinking there is any legal advice to any of this. The question is there anything actionable in this? Now, I know that I'm with you once again. Hollywood elites behaving badly. It's A-okay if a regular schmo slaps his coworker. I'm pretty sure there'll be consequences. And not just that, John. I would say that if the race was not an issue in this particular interhuman interaction, had it been, my goodness, people might be race or gender. I mean, just imagine if there were different players racially or gender-wise, sex-wise in this. I mean, just imagine that. But yes, if it's true, it's just, oh yeah, no. And then Will Smith sobs at the end, to apologize for his outburst. Love will make you do certain things. I love my wife. An insult is not going to make me physically assault somebody, but maybe we have different versions of love. I also would not engage in the type of extracurricular activities apparently the Smiths are engaged in. So the question was, getting back to Tim Pool, is there any actionable violation here? Any actionable infringement? Now, I think I shared the screen to my tweet somewhere in the back, but it's an interesting thing. Oh, it doesn't seem that whatever. I won't bring up the tweet. But so there's two interesting facts in this, is that at least in Canada, and I think it's the same in the US, because I think Canada was more on the wrong side of this than the United States. You can't copyright a title. So this is why you often have movies of similar titles, you have songs of similar titles, you have books of similar titles, or identical for that matter, because take Will of the People, for example, which is itself also something of an expression. Copyright protects the works and not any one element of the work. So not to go back to the Planck theory or atomic theory of elements as to what atomic structure creates an element. Within copyright, the idea is you cannot copyright a letter. You can't copyright a word. You can only copyright a certain combination of words that itself is qualified as an original work. And same thing in music. And there's always this debate as to how far down you can break down any element of any original work that is itself protectable. Katy Perry, Dark Horse, had an interesting one where it was a descending, I think it was a descending chromatic minor. Dun, 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 dun. Actually, should be careful not to even sing it. Oh, my voice is so bad. It was that descending minor scale in Dark Horse, and I forget what the original song that claimed to have copyright. So this argument does come up oftentimes as to how small of an element can be a protected work. And the law said, exceptions aside, titles are not part of the copyrighted work that is susceptible of independent protection. There were certain exceptions if the title is sufficiently unique in a way, but I think these are the exceptions to the rule. And the rule is, and I think it's the same in the US, titles cannot be copyright protected. They're not susceptible of copyright. The work is, but not the title. There was an exception in Canada to that, sort of a workaround, which got shut down by the Supreme Court, I believe, in 2009. And that was, you could register a title as a trademark. And I copyrighted the entire work. I wrote a child's book, which I have yet to publish, called Louis the Lobster, based on a true story of us buying a lobster at a seafood store in Prince Edward Island and trying to release it into the wild after the kid didn't want to eat it because it was there's an element of fiction to it, but there's an element of truth to it. Louis the Lobster. One day I'll share that exclusively on Locals. Yeah. So you can copyright the work. You can't copyright the title. But once upon a time in Canada, you could trademark the title. And you could trademark the title until this decision came out in 2009, Drolet, if I'm not mistaken, which said, no, you are indirectly doing effectively what the Copyright Act does not allow you to do directly. And from what I understand, this is also more in line with United States law. You can't even trademark a title in the United States because trademarks have to be marks associated with a trade or a product. Aware. So how often can a trademark title be associated with anything other than the copyrighted book itself? So there's that. And so in 2009, as of 2009, from my understanding of Canadian law, and I may be mistaken, you cannot any longer trademark a title to a song or a book. So, which leaves Tim Pool up poo-poo creek with nothing but, I guess he could say, admiration from Muse, to the extent that they may have seen the song, heard it, felt inspired by it, or it could be the thing called spontaneous creation. Although in copyright infringement, as far as music goes, there's a certain presumption. There's a presumption of knowledge when something has been sufficiently published or made public. Whether or not Tim Pool's original song, Will of the People, rises to that, separate argument. But it looks like Tim Pool has no actionable claim against Muse. He might just get to say, remember that time Muse felt so inspired by my music, they put out a song by the same title with a very similar themed artwork. The song is amazing, by the way. And I'll say this for both. Tim Pool's song is great. Muse's song is great as well. The music video, phenomenal. So let me see here. So that's it. I don't think Tim Pool's got any meaningful action. Setting aside copying the lyrics, I didn't actually go through the lyrics of both songs. So I don't know about that. But from the title, the sound of the songs might be sufficient. I don't think it employs any similar chord structure that would be copyright infringement in music. The artwork itself, similar but not identical. Please focus, camera. Hold on. Camera is focused. Keep calm and vlog on. Oh, people. Yeah, and I wear the shirt, but I have problems abiding by my own merch advice. Okay, camera should be focused. So that's it. So Tim Pool, I mean, it'll make for some bragging rights, but I don't think it's going to make for lawsuits, even if he were interested in doing it. The song name, for whoever just said that, who is Muse? Muse makes good music. Some of it sounds a lot the same, but they have some amazing songs. Now, the song name was Will of the People. Whoever, I can't find the chat that said, what's the song's name? I don't care about any of these people's lives. Well, okay, but first of all, you don't care about anything until someone makes you care about it by finding something of interest in it from a legal, ethical, moral perspective that makes you care about it. But then even after that, you care about the lesson, not about the individual. So one can make a movie called Alien versus Predator, showing a battle between some aliens and predators. I'll get back to you on that question. It's certainly not, but you'd have to see what would the protected element in that would be. Viva, viva, viva. There you go, using your brain to analyze Hollywood. We must examine this from the perspective of a moron to accurately gauge. Louis the Lobster, forward by Jordan Peterson. And it was well before, I forget when exactly I registered a copyright on the story, and I forget what year I did it in. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. Dark Horse. Okay, good. I do not have Charlotte's from Zot's contact. What happened to her? I'm going to have to look that up. I don't know what happened. Zot is live streaming. Charlotte, who's either his sister or his girlfriend, he refuses to say. They were live streaming or are live streaming the convoy in the United States. Prime example, Pentatonix doing voice versions of songs. I don't know what that means. Muse's earlier stuff is great. Muse is cringe. Okay, see, this is why everyone has an opinion. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, so, she went home. Okay, well, look, if I don't know what happened, and I know, well, I don't, I know, even if I had someone's private contact information, I wouldn't share it, but I'll reach out. I know I have been in touch with Zot. Okay, so that's Tim Pool. Now we'll get to some Canadian stuff, which, oh man, let's get to the Canadian stuff. I'm going to go to my notes, my Twitter notes. Video monetization, yeah. I was watching Crowder on Rumble. See, we're gonna share this. I was watching this earlier today. I like this format from Crowder. I love it when Crowder does this, and I actually like it when people sit down and actually have a meaningful discussion when they're allowed to. I do not understand people who show up to a protest with banners and then refuse to engage with the people that they came to protest. I do not understand it because it doesn't make sense. But everyone should watch this. It's great. I haven't gotten to the end of it yet, but it's great. Don't understand the amount of people who they come with banners, they come to protest, and then they refuse to explain why they're there or intercourse or engage discourse. But someone finally sat down with Crowder, and my major concern is that kid who sat down with Crowder to engage, and they ultimately, I'm sure they were already coming to some middle ground in the part that I saw. That kid's going to get chewed out, probably harassed by who he thought were his allies and his brethren, because he's finally going to concede that, you know, there is a legitimate point of contention in the debate of biological men transitioning to female, competing in biological female sports. There is a legitimate bona fide point of contention there that after any meaningful interaction, people would recognize, even if they disagree on it, and merely to recognize it is going to be an act of betrayal to one's allies and not one's friends. Alien versus Predator. Okay, I'm not going to read it, but I'm gonna have to. You guys are going to be make me pay more attention to the chats before I bring them. Just a distraction. Lesson. The lesson is that whether staged or not, with sufficient wealth, you can completely avoid the legal and moral consequences of your action. We learned that with Jussie Smollett. And we'll see what happens with that, because he's, we all know that he's he's out pending his appeal. Nice. Okay. So what's going on else in Canada? We covered the Tamara Lich bail hearings and her release with exquisitely onerous terms of release that I've discussed with criminal lawyers. They have never seen these types of terms of bail conditions for accused murderers or accused drug dealers. But Tamara Lich, at the very least, is allowed to breathe fresh air. But they discovered new charges against Tamara Lich, Pat King, who's still in jail. So we're going to do a little update on Pat King. And then we're going to cover, I forgot about the fake news. Where is Pat King facing new charges? Here we go. Pat King, Tamara Lich, they're now facing new charges at the same time they've announced these charges against Ryan Hillier. After 2.5 weeks in jail, after multiple bail hearings, after her release, they found new charges against Tamara Lich. And while Pat King is still sitting in jail, because, by the way, just skip to the end of this, King is due back in court on April 4. Pat King was arrested on February 18th on mischief and mischief-related charges. 4 charges: mischief, advising to commit mischief, advising to, I forget what the other ones were. He's been in jail now. It will be for a solid month and a half. Mischief charges. And they've discovered new charges. I'm neurotic. Let me just make sure that we're adequately, we are framed here. Okay, good. Freedom Convoy leader Pat King, facing new charges March 24. Freedom Convoy leader Pat King is facing several new charges in relation to his alleged role in the occupation of downtown. The occupation. This is CTV, recipient of a portion of $600 million in federal liberal government bailout money. King and the co-accused Tyson George Billings are facing 10 charges, court heard Thursday. The 2 men are charged with 2 counts each of intimidating and obstructing police. These are the new charges. We're going to get back into this with Ryan Hillier. These are the new charges that I don't understand. And this is the charge against Ryan Hillier that I do not understand. Ryan Hillier, as we will see, is accused with, I believe it's assault on an officer of the peace, a peace officer, or assault on a police officer. How it takes 30 days for that charge to come up does not make sense to me. We'll get there. But the 2 men the 2 men are charged with 2 counts each of intimidating and obstructing police. Intimidating police. One would think that if someone had intimidated police, it doesn't take a month and a half to come up with those charges after the original charges. One would think that would be the first of the charge, because it would be, I'll say, not the easiest to prove, but at the very least the easiest to allege. Intimidating a police officer, unless it's something that you have to realize retroactively had occurred, seems something that's obvious enough that it would lead to an arrest and charges the moment of. They are charged each with 1 count of mischief, those are the other charges: counseling to commit mischief, counseling to obstruct police, counseling to intimidation, disobeying a court order, and counseling to disobey a court order. The 2 other leaders of the protest, Chris Barber and Tamara Lich, are also facing additional charges. He's been in custody since February 18. He's appeared several times, was denied bail last month. We talked about that. Denied bail because the peace officer, whatever they're called, said that it it would undermine the judicial system and faith in the judicial system if he were to be let out of jail pending the trial on his accusation, alleged mischief and mischief-related charges. There's been some issues with him being able to speak with his counsel, yada, yada. I understand that there's been some extreme difficulties in being able to contact Mr. King at the detention center, said the lawyer. At one point, King apologized for the delay. I apologize for all this nonsense, he said. Okay, I don't know what that means. It's an interesting way to interpret it. I'm sure he's apologizing for this nonsense. Billings, King's co-accused, is in custody as well at Kintaid Detention Center in Napanee, Ontario. He is scheduled to be on Friday. The 3-week occupation of downtown Ottawa protests COVID. The 3-week occupation of downtown Ottawa to protest COVID-19 public health measures and other grievances cost the city an estimated $36 million, the majority of which was in the police response. Let that sink in, by the way, people. Close that up. The majority of the $36.6 million was in the police response because the government made the decision not to engage, not to negotiate, not to de-escalate, not to resolve the dispute, but rather to do everything they can to escalate, to antagonize, to ignore, to exacerbate, so they could then tell people to shut down their businesses, exacerbate their damages, alleged damages, employ police, come down with an iron fist of fury to suppress the most peaceful protest you'd ever seen, incur $36 million in police, the majority of which, so it might be anything of $18.3 million and more in police resources. But I was there and I saw what the police did. That's what the damages that they allege the city incurred, which they attribute to the protesters, are actually decisions the city made and the government in how to deal with it. So, yeah, I missed some chats here. So that's what's going on with Pat King, and those are the new charges. Which it's the nature of the new charges that causes me to become suspicious. The nature of some of those new charges are sufficiently serious that those, in my mind, intimidating a police officer should have been as of the day that it allegedly occurred. You don't really have to do much. I don't know what more research investigation you need to do to determine if an individual intimidated a police officer, and if you need to do such retrospective analysis to determine that, oh yeah, what he said there was intimidation, I then question the charges. A great man and career musician I worked for as his tour manager once said to me, the music business, at the end of the day, all we're really doing in music is selling around. Now, there's no question about that. And recycling tunes, just make them sufficiently original. But at the end of the day, also, there's only so many notes in an octave. There's only so many chords on a piano to be able to make something that is bona fide new. I mean, everything goes back. I mean, Pachelbel Canons, I don't think was the original chord progression for C to G to A to E to F to C to F to G. It's the bass line to a lot of music. Cat paws from crowded. I don't know. I'm not sure I got there yet. Okay, so that's what's going on with Pat King. Still in jail, new charges. Just keep laying him on thick. Lay him on thick, because even if they get exonerated, the power lies in the conviction. Viva, you are a delight. I think your hair is a revelation. You wear it so well. It ain't easy to control curls. You do it massively. The problem is when I sleep, I take it and put it all up like this, because I don't like my ears being tickled by my hair. And then when I wake up, the sides are super straight, as is the back. But it certainly is, it's spiritually reflective of the way I feel these days. Somewhat losing control of the world in which we're living, because we're seeing it burn before our very eyes. Proverbially speaking, people, the pendulum will swing back unless the whole freaking thing falls over. Haven't caught up yet. Did any of the European politicians' statements to Trudeau have any reactions up north? You still have CBC. Don't take my word for it. Do not take my word for it. Hold on. And I actually want to make sure before I say this. Incognito, Google, CBC, Trudeau, standing ovation. KBC, here's the thing. CBC reported that Trudeau received a standing ovation. Well, let me just go to the tweet, because I need to see the original story. You know what? This is why you have to verify, because people were saying that CBC said that Trudeau got a standing ovation in the European Parliament, but I can't seem to find a story from the CBC showing that he got a standing ovation. Okay, so we'll put that on pause, and I'm going to go back afterwards, which is why it's very important to double check your own memory in life. But no, there's been no fallout here. People, by and large, still haven't even heard about that ridiculous biting speeches by four members of European Parliament. Hold on, I'm going to go get that. Viva Clips Trudeau. 4 European parliamentarians, at least, gave the most blistering speeches targeting Justin Trudeau. Here, share this around, people. It's got 266,000 views. This is just a straight up montage of 4 members of European Parliament, one of whom's a judge, utterly lambasting Justin Trudeau. They have, from what I understand, since been maligned as being, you know, what do you accuse someone who criticizes your dear leader? They're right-wing extremists. But no, look, it's people who don't want to know, don't know. People who only see the front end of Justin Trudeau speaking to Parliament don't see the back end. He's speaking to a 1/4 full, 3/4 empty Parliament, by my estimate. So yeah, I now understand it. Defund it. If they can't succeed on their own merits, they do not deserve to succeed. Sorry, that's free market. You succeed based on your skills, or you succeed on a set of skills, or you fail. But if you succeed only because you're being subsidized by my taxpayer dollars, you're not succeeding. You're just stealing. Anecdote, you've probably already heard it, but when I ran for the People's Party of Canada, and I did an interview with, forget his name always, Martin, CBC Daybreak. I did an interview with CBC Daybreak. I did the interview on Wednesday or Tuesday. It ran on a Thursday morning at 7:10, and then it never made its way up onto CBC Daybreak's website. I had to harass, like say, hey guys, when is this getting up on your website? I want to share it. They were not putting up an interview, which by CBC Daybreak standards, in the context of a federal election in Canada, that interview, it's not like I'm the greatest or most interesting individual on earth by any means, full stop. In the context of the federal elections, that was a newsworthy item. That would have gotten traffic from Canada if they had put it on their website. And if they had to sell ad space on their website to anyone other than the government, and people actually needed concrete traffic to their website so they could justify their ad spend rate on CBC, they would have rushed to get that interview onto the platform, not dragged their feet because it might have actually made someone from the PPC look half logical. They would have rushed to get it onto their platform so they could say, look at the traffic we get, and this is why we get to command a given rate for ad dollars. But instead, because I think it made me look reasonable, I think it made the People's Party of Canada look reasonable. They had no vested interest to put it on their website because they don't need to earn their dollars. They dragged their feet. They only put it up on their website Sunday afternoon when the election and the vote was that Monday, the next Monday. So instead of giving their listeners 4 days to listen to, digest, and share around that interview, they gave their viewers 12 hours for anyone who was paying attention on a Sunday afternoon. Why'd they do that? Because they don't have to earn their money. They've got a government stuffing them like the fat proverbial political pigs that they are. They just can sit there sucking at the government's teeth, $1 billion a year, and they don't have to earn it. They don't even have to pretend that they're trying to earn it. So that's the CBC, and I am firmly on the board of defunding the CBC and no bailout to media. Why would the media need a bailout? Okay. So that's that. But good segue before we get into the Ryan Hillier story. CBC, above and beyond being lazy because they've been sucking at that government teat for too long, it makes you lazy, whether you like it or not. When you get too comfortable, you get lazy. When you no longer have to fight when you no longer have to work for what you need or want in life, you get lazy. And CBC has gotten very lazy. They've gotten lazy, they've gotten crappy, and they've suffered no consequences as a result of that. And that's like the worst learning cycle that you can possibly have. Get lazy, don't produce, don't be good quality journalism, and still get pay and raise. My God, and still get paid and raises. And I don't know how it works with the government in terms of whether or not they increase that $1 billion, but don't work, don't earn your audience, and still get paid $1 billion a year between CBC and Radio Canada. Oh, and that's not to mention COVID ads, which the government runs on CBC, Radio Canada, and other subsidized media. The government subsidizes outright CBC, Radio Canada, then buys ad space, which is disguised subsidizing. They bail out the mainstream media to $600 million a year. Then they, under the table, disguised subsidize them through COVID ads. Yeah, so it's a bad combination. But let's go to this, because they ran a story which was just false, just fake news, because they're lazy. They don't know how to do their job. And when it's convenient not to do so because it promotes a narrative, they have no incentive not to do it. Is this it? So I got to give the credit where it starts. StreamYard, let me just make sure we're aligned here. And we are. This is from, oh, these are the charges. Wrong window. Hold on. Son of a gun. Producer, will you get this stuff straight here? Let me see here. Share. It would seem that CBC. Okay, I think this is it. Post Millennial covered it, but it was here we go. It was Greg Reed, lawyer and producer, Fox News. Yeah, it's Fox News, people. So if you want to write it off for that, go right ahead. CBC ran a story about this individual who we see. I'll bring this up. I regret going. Protester says he spent life savings to support Freedom Convoy. Just right there off the headline. Not a question of being black-pilled. Not even a question of being red-pilled. It's a question of having half a brain. Something sounds a little fishy here. Protester says he spent life savings to support Freedom Convoy. Yada, yada, yada. Let's just read the story. A protester who joined the so-called Freedom Convoy. This is being reported by so-called journalists at CBC, which occupied, here we go again. It's like just say the word over and over again. Cross state lines, which occupied downtown Ottawa for much of February. Says he regrets taking part after he lost $13,000 and his home, protesting something he never really, quote, had a stance on. A lot of questions here, by the way. There are a lot of questions to flesh out in this one statement. This doesn't happen in an afternoon. He lost his $13,000, receipts, and give them up, lost his home. Something tells me, if I'm going to go make a guess here, that an individual might have lost their home for reasons other than reasons other than participating in this protest. Something tells me, if I'm just being a reasonably objective, analytical litigator here. I regret going, he said Martin Joseph Engelhardt, who spoke to CBC via Zoom from Hope, BC. Engelhardt said he has nothing left after spending his life savings on gas and food so he spent $13,000 on gas and food for the occupiers. That makes no sense to anybody. I mean, gas is expensive. I will do the math as to how much it would cost to drive a standard vehicle I get 600 kilometers for about $120 on my Subaru. This doesn't make sense. $13,000 on gas and food for the occupiers. Anybody who saw any portion of the live stream documenting that I was doing saw the food that was there. Okay. Makes no sense, but leave it to so-called journalists at the CBC to ask the right questions. I started delivering fuel and picking up laundry, everything for the truckers. Then it would seem that this story could be corroborated by the truckers, and wait until you see how this story gets corroborated. From January 6th. Yeah. Bank statements provided to CBC show Engelhardt transferred thousands of dollars and spent thousands of dollars more at gas station near the Convoy Road. Transferred. I'd like to see the receipts to that, where he was stationed for the majority of the protest. He said he's currently living out of his SUV and said his landlord kicked him out. Oh, I thought they said he lost his home. And now they're saying that he got kicked out by a landlord, which seems to be a tenant issue. Doesn't matter. Just carry on. This is such a good story for the CBC. This is like all of those regret not doing something on their deathbeds. I mean, it's too good to question. He said he's unable to access his account because it remains frozen. How did they get the receipts from his bank account if it's frozen? More than 250 accounts linked to people, yada, yada, yada. They've been frozen. Yeah, we know that. Millions of dollars were donated. We know that. Engelhardt admits he never had a stance on mandates, but felt drawn to the movement after he was prevented from visiting a dying friend at a Montreal hospital in June because of COVID restrictions. Okay, so he never had a stance, but had a stance as of June. Here we go. Look at this. I don't even know I don't want to get in trouble. This is on the CBC, but I don't know what that is there. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, fine. So this is the story. Cost to participate. Just let me see there. Oh, okay. Here. This is the warning. This is the moral. Let me see. You guys, why do my email Outlook notifications continue to come in after I've shut Outlook down? Okay, cost for participating when hearing Engelhardt's story. University of Ottawa law professor João Veloso said he was not surprised. Veloso conducted his research on the ground in Ottawa during the entirety of the occupation. He was examining the anthropological and sociological aspects of the protest. Sorry, is this a law professor or an anthropology professor? Doesn't matter. You may have people that were seeking a sense of community, said Veloso. Everybody was tired of the pandemic, and you see people for the first time in 2 years. I can totally understand that. But there's a cost, he warned. We are not talking about people with a lot of resources, he said. They have their trucks, they have some funds, but the vast majority of the protesters were middle class, sometimes low. Okay. $300 million lawsuit, yada, yada, yada. Not all the people that were there received the money that some of the organizers received. We have no idea if there was dark money. Well, apparently this individual, Professor Veloso, does not read the news, because even the people doing the research said, I think they determined that 130,000 donations came from Canadians. So we know where this money came from. It was not dark money, but nice hypothesis there. So that's the story. This guy regrets going, and they have some text messages. Now let's just go back to where we were on the Twitter world. I'm going to close this, make sure that we still see this. Let's go back to where we were on the Twitterverse. And let's take a break for 1 second, actually, just to see one thing here. Let me see one thing here. Okay, well, there was no chat, but thank you very much. That's the story. Sounds fishy. By way of consensus in the chat, maybe I'll run a poll. Fishy 1, not fishy 2. Fishy 1, legit 2. Let's just see. Let's just see what people think. But let's go back to the tweet. Yeah, let's take a breather break and a back crack break. Hold on. Oh, that was good, actually. Let me see this side here. Oh, no, that didn't work. Oh, someone just said they're in Australia. One unanimous. But now I wanted to see, hey, I'm in Australia and just happened to click on the CBC article about the guy who spent $13,000 and wondered on the veracity. Jack Jackerson. Sorry, I don't know if that's your real name, but it's actually kind of awesome if it is. But I suspect it might not be. But Jack Jackerson, wait until you hear the punchline to this story. Because this is what actual journalists do. They actually fact check the story before they run something, despite how good it makes them feel and how fitting of the narrative it is. This is from Gregory, and then we're going to get to the post-millennial. CBC reports that a Freedom Convoy protester regrets challenging Trudeau's authority, lost his life savings, lives out of his SUV. There are many serious factual errors to the story. Let's just go to one. I'm not a fan of the threads because I can never seem to follow them properly. Here we go. First, CBC reports that Engelhardt was arrested on February 15. As proof, CBC provides a ticket from the 10th. Further, this ticket is not proof of an arrest. Okay, fine. Second, my nose is itchy. CBC reports that the man's bank account has been frozen. Supposedly, the individual posted this video as proof, but merely suggests e-transfers did not go through. The man feeds the line about accounts being frozen. CBC repeats it. Third, numerous people, this is the good one. I say the good one. This is the big one. If he was going out and helping these truckers, giving them food, money, buying them gas, he'd be known to the truckers. And it sounds like he was. Third, numerous people in the Ottawa area have publicly accused this man of scamming them with false sob stories for money. And this is a post that someone says, scammer alert. This guy is a well-known scammer around Sault Ste. Marie. I hosted him for a night with my friends. Nothing added up with him. Scammed many with his false stories of being ex-forces with PTSD. Okay, take that for what it's worth, but it's not irrelevant. Let's just go back. And then there was, that was 4 or 5. And let's just go to, well, I don't know where this ends. This is why they get confusing. I've reached out to the CBC, yada, yada, yada. Haven't heard back. Oh, Gregory, I haven't seen this one. Update, have now obtained records of Englehart's wire transfers. It appears CBC did not bother to check where Englehart was sending his money or request withdrawal receipts. They simply assumed it was going to accounts Englehart did not control. CBC promising response today. Anyways, it goes on, but let me give this all to you so you can all go see this in the chat and you can follow it yourself. So the story probably is absolute bunk from an individual who is probably not being forthright, to put it mildly. And let me see what else there was here. So that's CBC quality journalism. I mean, who needs to actually check the individual story when it fits the narrative so well? You get paid for doing garbage journalism in any event. And by the time you print the retraction, none of the readers who actually waste their time reading CBC are ever going to know about it. Let's close this one down. And then we'll go to the post-millennial, because let's just see what we got in the chat here. Stop Viva, third and fourth hand information. Whoa, what's third and fourth hand information? What the individual who they cited is saying? Yeah, I gave all my, I don't know where the money went. I lost, I was arrested, but there's no, someone can go and find out where the individual was arrested if he indeed were. And by the way, just to that response, it's not for, I know personally an individual involved in the convoy who was scammed with this individual, but I'm not that type of journalist, if I'm a journalist at all, and that's not what I do. But that's what people should do. I could put the CBC in touch with someone who I believe already actually made a public statement that he personally was scammed by this individual. I see a discussion in the chat that I don't know if I'm going to get involved in. So that it's oops, defund the. He scammed the truckers. I've been telling you this. I know someone personally who put out a statement. I'm just not, you can go find it. And people in the chat probably know who it was. Personally scammed by the individual. But who cares? This is the deathbed apology story that is just too darn good for the CBC to bother checking and for the CBC to feel compelled to have the obligation to do their jobs properly, because it's without consequence. Now, let me just go to the post-millennial, which does real journalism. Here we go. Post-millennial, people. That's Joe Rogan. I thought that was a picture of me for a second. CBC regretful trucker convoy protester story falls apart. Okay. A story hyped, but let me just make sure. Sorry, people. Yep, we're there. Okay, good. A story hyped by the CBC and CTV about a regretful trucker, yada, 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 is being disputed by those who were on the ground with him in Ottawa and those who have been victims of his previous alleged scams. Published Thursday, the story focuses on the individual, a man claiming to have given away all of his life savings. We read this part. Salivating at the idea of a gullible right-winger mascot, CBC seemingly ran this story to project the narrative, yada, yada, yada. We know why they ran it. In addition, CBC CTV also ran a story of Englehart where he says he is sorry to the people of Ottawa, noting how they had to endure all the horns and all the weirdos. Nonetheless, he alleges to have joined the protest because he was upset. Okay, fine, whatever. Englehart's story is now being disputed by countless individuals who were with him in Ottawa or have been victims of his scams across the country. Many aspects of CBC's piece of self-evidently suspicious. Most were pointed out by Fox News' Greg Ree, who created a Twitter thread of all. Oh, he created a Twitter thread of all the falsehoods. Okay, there you go. Now, some of you might say this is the vortex of news reporting on news. The bottom line, there were warnings of scam alert that predated this story. And when a story comes out of that magnitude, it requires a proportionate magnitude of investigative journalism verification. The story was it was implausible on its face, and that's it. It was implausible on its face, but just too good to let up. as with the arson story, which we now know is bunk. It's either it's either totally fake or it's absolutely unrelated to the convoy, but media ran with it, and by the time the erratum comes around, too late, too bad, so sad, the damage is done. All right, so let me see what's going on in the chat here. Confession through projection. Post-millennial is actually conservative propaganda, just as bad, honestly. You give me Joe Soffit, you're entitled to your opinion. Give me one example of a story that they ran which was factually incorrect that they did not correct. Just give me one example. In fact, let's start simplified. Give me one story that they ran that turned out to be false. And then we can see. Propaganda, meaning they focus on certain political leanings, then we're using propaganda wrong. Propaganda means putting out politically motivated disinformation. So show me an article that Post-Millennial published that was false, and then the follow-up is if they corrected it, because even journalists make mistakes. But other than that, okay, good. You're entitled to your opinion. Go read CBC, CTV. I'll tell you, as far as I've known from the Post-Millennial, they do more investigative work. I can't recall an example when they were wrong, but all that I know is that the CBC has proven to be liars over and over again, and they are absolute rubbish. And the Post-Millennial has covered stories which were in fact true that rubbish liars that are state-funded media were not reporting, which makes Post-Millennial, even if you think they have a political motivation, better than the rubbish. Let's see if I missed anything up here. Then we're going to get into Viva. Who then would own the legal name then? So I'm too far gone on that to know what that's about. Let's see. If Dave is a good guy. If you're talking about me, I agree. And you're using a Nikon, which makes us camera brethren. Lynn Brooks. Just enjoying your live shows. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The one thing is they're stressful because I wake up in the morning and I don't know if I want to go live if I have enough, not material, insight. If I have anything meaningful to say for any reasonable period of time, but then I'm sitting there doing my morning routine. I'm reading about this slap heard around the world, and it irritates me. Then I'm reading on Tim Pool, and it's like, okay, maybe I should clarify my tweet so that nobody thinks I'm encouraging Tim Pool to sue Muse. And there's interesting legal stuff. Then I read additional charges. Then I see what's going on with Ryan Hillier. I was like, yeah, now we have enough to talk about and have an insightful, educational morning, and people can see what's going on in the news and digest it their own way. You might think I'm a total right-wing hack, but then I invite you to tell me why, meaningfully, substantively, specifically. And I will then be able to respond, or I'll have to admit I made a mistake, like I made with Raquel Dancho, who's a conservative member of parliament and who, by all accounts, was being facetious, sarcastic, and I didn't pick up on it. Ooh, that makes me angry when I miss the punchline. Morning, and thank you for doing your best to cut through the craziness. Jamie Lee McFadden, thank you very much. And a member, booyah, I think. Yes, for sure. Okay, let's see. So much stolen valor these days. Every scammer is going X-Forces with PTSD. It's not even these days, Maplehead. I remember growing up and people were doing it. And when you're young and you're naive and you think, why would people lie about something so fundamental, something so holy, something, gosh darn it. Wait a minute. I'm never taking my glasses down. Okay, they were crooked. Why would people lie about something so meaningful, special, and what's the word? Sacrosanct. And as a kid, I was like, oh, mom and dad, let's, the guy says it. It's like, and then you think your parents are cynical. You think your parents are mean. You think your parents don't care because they've lived long enough to see people exploit tragedy for their own personal gain without the slightest shred of remorse or regret. Because people are built differently, and people, whether or not they do it because of how they're chemically composed, it doesn't matter. They do bad things, and they don't feel bad about it. Did I say Ryan Hillier? I think I said Ryan Hillier for another reason. I think I know a lawyer by that name. Sorry, Randy Hillier. And my apologies. Okay. Will Smith Chris Rock slap? Completely staged. Chris Rock braces. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah. Well, we've gone over this. I definitely understand how people see it that way because I there's a part of me that sees it that way. I like your dogs, by the way. Boston Terriers, beautiful. Too hyper for me. Hashtag confession through projection, but I like them. They're also too bony. I like the Frenchie because they're a little bit, the French Bulldog, because they're a little mushier. But even, some Frenchies are too muscular and bony as well. Confession through projection. Now I got a furry, shaggy ball of, a mop because I can't get a bull mastiff yet, but one day. I'm a left-wing anarchist. Completely agree. Remedia. Brandon Stone, I don't know what a left-wing anarchist means, but we can all agree on some things. Media are liars. Politicians are liars, with rare exceptions. Thank you for the super chat. Criticize all day, but be specific. If you don't give an example, you're not being critical. You're being a lazy hack. We haven't met yet. We haven't met yet, and I agree. It's like, don't call me a Putin apologist. Tell me don't say I'm spouting off Putin talking points, pro-Russian propaganda. Tell me what specifically, and unless you do, you are in fact just spouting off MSM talking points. I am very open to criticism. If I make a mistake, I want to know it. It's not just that please tell me. I want to know it. But when I come out and say that I have great difficulty accepting the numbers coming out of NATO in this war, doesn't make me an apologist. I just don't believe it, and I would I may be cynical, and it's not a biased cynic. When I see the certain videos that are going around, on the other side, I'm still cynical about their authenticity or the context. Those videos that were going around allegedly showing Ukrainians taping Russians to lampposts as reprisals. I'm still cynical. I'm still skeptical. I would need to know the context. I'm not spouting any other talking point just by being equally critical to all sides. But like you say, if you have an issue, a gripe, be specific so that I can know what the allegation is. This is a fundamental principle of law. If the allegation is not sufficiently specific that I can even defend myself against it, it will be stricken from a court record. So there's that. Now let's get to Ryan Hillier. Randy Hillier. Sorry, it's a brain thing, and it's going to be in there for a long time. I'm reading some of these chats, some of the comments which I'm not bringing. This is if you think I don't think it was staged. I think Chris Rock looked genuinely flustered afterwards. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay. we got Cujo in the avatar. Hold on, I saw Viva with a caps. If we can't protest peacefully and or do anything aggressive, what choices are left to defend ourselves? EJ, interesting thing actually. This is a good parentheses. There's the expression, and I don't know who said it, those who make peaceful protest impossible make violent protest inevitable. I want to say JFK, but let me just make sure. Those who make peaceful protest. Okay, here we go. JFK is alleged to have said it. And it's funny. This expression took on a different meaning for me. Share. It's always important to know who said it. Where is it? Nonviolent revolutions. Okay, so here's share. Okay, and then we say one theory of democracy. This is from Wikipedia. Take it for the rubbish that it is, but sometimes on matters of fact, they get things right until they go stealth edit and change the definition of to 86 something. Whitmer. Go back to those vlogs on that. One theory of democracy is that its main purpose is to allow peaceful revolutions. The idea is that majorities voting in elections approximate the result of a coup. In 1962, John F. Kennedy famously said, "Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." So it's an interesting thing. We've heard that expression time and time again. And to me, it took on a different meaning, a different scope, where when you see the government punishing people for crimes as though they had committed those crimes, when they in fact by no means committed any such crimes. When you see people punishing, when you see the court system punishing, let's just take, for example, the January 6th defendants. Let's say that we can agree they are guilty of, let's just say on the merits, they're guilty of trespass, obstructing a official proceedings. We can't agree on the second part. Let's agree that they were guilty of trespass. When you treat them like they are guilty of insurrection, when you punish them, I mean, even before a trial, as though they're guilty of the most heinous of the accusations, which they actually don't even face, when you punish trespass as insurrection, well, guess what? From the perspective of the individual who was committing the trespass, they're going to say to themselves, if you're going to punish me for insurrection when all I was doing was trespassing, why would I not then insurrect? And it's a similar thing in criminal law. If you're going to punish, let's just take I don't want to take hyperbolic examples. If you're going to punish a speeder for no, it's a bad example. Let's just take a protester in Ottawa. If you're gonna accuse a protester in Ottawa of violence, when in fact, and by all accounts, there was no violence there. If you're gonna accuse and charge a peaceful protester with violence, there's no incentive in the mind of the peaceful protester to remain peaceful. If they're going to get the punishment anyhow, but for their own moral conscience, which would be enough for me, why remain peaceful? And that's the angle of the JFK expression that I'm now sort of appreciating might have been a secondary interpretation. The obvious one is, if you don't let us vote in a way that we actually think it's legitimate, well, then you make violent revolution impossible. Fine. The way I'm now appreciating it is a little more subtle nuance. If you're going to punish someone as though they've committed the most heinous of crimes when they've only committed a minutely offensive crime, in their mind, there's no incentive anymore not to commit the more serious crime if you're going to prosecute them for that anyhow, despite them showing restraint. Maybe it's actually we're saying the same thing just differently. So, going after these protesters on mischief charges and then treating them like worse than murderers. Locking up Pat King for now it's going to be a month and a half, Tamara Litch for 3 weeks on mischief charges. You don't even do that with accused drug dealers. So you're going to punish them as though they've already committed the most serious offense that they're not even charged with. You're going to disincentivize people not to begin that way from the beginning. This is the problem of the system. This is how it breaks down. Alex Ogle, I wonder what your opinions on Russia-Ukraine might be. I wonder that your opinions on Russia-Ukraine might use a historical perspective. If you could, you might interview David Starkey. He is interested in historical analyses and may have ideas about Trudeau. Well, I think I've gotten something of a historical perspective. I mean, I've listened to Barnes, which I know some people disagree with. I listened to the Jordan Peterson interview with the other guy who was diametrically on the other side of the historical contextualizing of Russia's ambitions on a geopolitical scale. I've heard that interpretation. I watched Ukraine on Fire. I've seen that interpretation. I've done my own research to listen to documentaries on YouTube. I would say the History Channel, but I've looked into the history. I understand the history. I mean, the question is, how far back do you have to go? The obvious answer is you have to go further back than 2022. But I've listened to the historical interpretation on both sides. I understand the argument that Putin wants to wants Russia to regain something of a Soviet Union type presence in Europe. I appreciate that argument. I'm not sure that I agree with it, but I've heard it and I understood it. The American Christian will die on his feet before he will ever live on his knees. George Washington, God bless America. And I don't know what that means, but thank you for the super chat. Okay, so now let's get speaking of charging the individual with the worst crimes, treating them as though they're already guilty of the worst crimes when at best they might have committed innocuous crimes, but relatively innocuous crimes. Let's get to Ryan Hillier. People in advance, by the way, accusing me of already coming to the defense of Ryan Hillier. Oh, so you think it's okay to call in and flood the emergency hotline, flood 911 with fake calls? Let's avoid any ambiguity. No. And I think Ryan Hillier was wrong for suggesting that or stating that in his tweets. I couldn't find the tweet in which he said that, but I found articles, which spoke of it. Categorically, no. And I think if he did say it, and it seems that he did put out the tweet, just to show you, it's at the end of the article. Randy Hillier was first elected. Okay, we'll get there in a second. Here we go. While the convoy protests were being dispersed on February 19, Hillier called for his Twitter followers to, quote, keep calling, end quote, emergency phone lines in Ottawa, even after police urged people to stop. I'd like to know the context to that tweet. I couldn't find it. So if anybody can find it, post it on Twitter and tag me in it. There has to be a screenshot of it. But yes, categorical condemnation of anyone who seriously, unironically, unsarcastically says, phone in the hotlines and flood them. I don't really actually care what the pretext might have been. What is going on in that photo? Yeah, whatever. So yeah, people jumping, people presupposing where I'm going to go and say, oh, so you could. I'm not okay with telling people to flood the police lines with fake calls. Not okay with it, period. Now, just to get to what Hillier is being charged with, because some of them are going to make sense, some of them are not going to make sense within the time frame, the timeline in which we are living. This is from March 8th, so this is before the charges. That was an article I wanted to verify the accusations that Hillier had tweeted, offensive tweets, and he was suspended. So this article, I'll put it in here. I don't really want to go through it. He got suspended for making medically inaccurate statements on Twitter. I don't agree or disagree with people having medical opinions if they're not doctors. I don't think they should be banned for them. And I certainly don't think they should be charged criminally for them, nor is Randy Hillier being charged for the tweets that apparently might have gotten him suspended as relates to medical issues, medical questions. Apparently he's being charged for the tweet that was telling people to phone in fake calls to the police lines, which, again, I don't agree with. If there was actually, if they were bona fide serious, go do it and cause hell. Something in my mind, if I'm being cynical, says there might have been sarcasm to that, because at one point I do recall citizens or non-convoy participants were phoning in. And at one point I do believe that the non-participants were phoning in, trying to flood the hotline, the police lines with fake calls. And if Hillier said, well, if they can do it, we can do it, go ahead and do it, still don't think you should say something like that. But context would certainly attenuate the accusation. So that article was not the one I wanted to get to, because I wanted to go to the charges that are brought against him. I'm not going to bring that tweet up here. I think I missed something here. Oh, hold on a second here. There's a tweet that I super chat with the Twitter avatar. I want to see this before I lose it, before I get into the charges against Ryan Hillier. Breather. Okay. I'm in Budapest for several months, and when it drizzles here, there is a dirt film left all over cars, awnings, etc., from the explosions in Ukraine. I have talked with refugees. It's been profound. And this is another thing. I don't think anybody is denying there's a real war going on, and innocent Ukrainian civilians are being killed, being displaced, and suffering. Nobody denies that. You want to go for the blame question? Okay. You want to go for the solution question? Those are very different questions. But setting all, the reality is one thing. The media frenzy on this is something else. So let's do this. Let's go to share the charges against Ryan Hillier. I believe it was Stephen Hoff. Can I see this? Here we go. So this is coming from, I believe this is from the CBC. Let me just double check the profile of the individual. Stephen Hoff, producer, CBC, Parliamentary Bureau. Okay. Reporting. Okay. Boom, shakalaka. We got breaking. And this is at 8:05 this morning, by the way, when from what I understood, even Hillier did not know what the charges were against him when he was showing up this morning to turn himself in. So it is interesting. I mean, maybe they have maybe the CBC has access to the documents. Maybe they got tipped off. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Breaking, we now have the official charges laid against Randy Hillier by Ottawa police. He turned himself into police. I think they mean he turned himself in to police and not he turned himself into police, because now they're going to accuse Randy Hillier of impersonating a police officer. He turned himself into a police officer, people. Sorry. I only pay attention to this. I don't point out typos. It's just a funny one, because when I put up my tweet, I first drafted it like this, and I said, no, that means he turned himself into police and not in to the police. Okay. Charges, people. Look at this. I don't know if you can read it, so I'll read it out loud. It says, for immediate release Monday, March 28, 2022, 8 a.m. Where is this being released from? Multiple charges laid against area MPP, member of provincial parliament. The Ottawa Police Service has arrested and charged Randy Hillier, 64 years old, of Perth, Ontario. Hillier is the member of provincial parliament for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston. In February, Ottawa, this is where it gets very interesting. I can't highlight it, so I'm not going to. Ottawa police received multiple complaints about social media posts and other activities of an individual as part of the ongoing illegal protests. They're again repeating illegal protests, where in the only court order that we have to date, as far as I understand, the judge said, respect the terms of this order and you can protest legally. So I don't know when the illegal determination came in, let alone in whatever press release this is from. Seems very interesting to presuppose the illegality of the protest before proving it, but maybe I'm just wordsmithing as an attorney does. An investigation was commenced and information gathered by a police task force initiated. Okay, sorry, let me rephrase that. An investigation was commenced and information gathered by a police task force initiated to investigate criminal behavior during the protest. That task force continues its work. Listen to this. Hillier was charged by the Criminal Investigations Unit with, some are going to make sense to have come after an investigation, others will not. Some will make sense. It took 30 days to look into social media posts. Okay, some are not. This is Criminal Code of Canada, Section 430, mischief, obstruct property exceeding $5,000. Okay. We now know that they've basically qualified the entire protest as having obstructed property, because mischief means, I pulled it up before, I'm not going to do it again, but mischief basically means depriving someone of the peaceable enjoyment of their property or peaceful enjoyment of property. So the idea here is that the blockade on Wellington Street, which actually didn't prevent anybody from accessing anything as far as I could see, is the mischief. It's the object of the mischief. Counsel an uncommitted indictable offense. So he advised someone to commit an indictable offense that was never committed. I'd like to know what those words were. Maybe that is phone in and obstruct, flood the police lines. Maybe. Mischief, obstruct property exceeding $5,000. I'd like to know why there are two of those charges. Same charges, X1 times 1. Okay, whatever. Obstruct, this is where I'm getting very, very, very curious. Obstruct, resist person, aiding public. Okay, so obstruct, resist person, aiding public. Okay. So he's either obstructing or he's assisting someone in avoiding police. I think that's how I'm reading this. I'd have to go look at that. But this is it. Obstruct, resist a police officer. So one is basically times 2, I think. One is helping someone do it. The other is obstructing, resisting a police officer himself. All of these other charges I can appreciate might have required an investigation. What are we, February? I don't even know what date we are. March 28th? March 28th, the protest came to an end on February 18th or 19th. So we're over a month out of this protest. I can understand how they might have to go and investigate social media posts to see if there were posts encouraging others to break the law, if there were posts encouraging others to commit mischief, however they define that. I have great difficulty thinking it took a month plus for the police to investigate whether or not Randy Hillier obstructed or resisted a police officer. That seems to be the type of thing you know the moment it happened. The police officer would know the moment it happened. And then counsel an uncommitted, indictable, whatever. So these are, by and large, these are the charges. We don't know any of the underlying information as of yet. And when I say that there's a portion of this that to me seems like it could be trumped up charges, to say that it took a month and a half to investigate Randy Hillier allegedly obstructing or resisting arrest, resisting a police officer, I have a very, very big problem thinking that charge, which in my mind is the most serious of the bunch, because a lot of them we can probably see through as being disguised political attacks, politically motivated. Okay, fine. He told people to hold the line. We know that is now a basis of the charges against some. We know that but I have great difficulty accepting for 1 second that it took a month plus for them to find probable cause to press charges against Randy Hillier of obstructing or resisting arrest. No, I didn't skip the police officer. I'm talking about it right now. I have great. If Randy Hillier assaulted a police officer, I don't think it takes 30 plus days to come down with that charge. You don't need an investigation of social media accounts to come down with that charge. In my mind, that charge comes down pretty quickly after the alleged assault on a police officer. I'm not missing it. I specifically highlighted it. Let me just bring it back, add to stream, in case it might not be able to be seen. Right here, charge number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obstruct, resist a police officer. Oh, I'm sorry. Assault police officer. I don't think I missed it. If I missed it, and I was if you meant that I should have that's the one I'm talking about. Assaulting a police officer is not a 30-day investigation to come down with the charges. Following our investigation, we determined that, yeah, what Randy Hillier did, in fact, was actual assault on a police officer. At the time, we didn't know. At the time it occurred, the police officer didn't know that it was assault. Sorry, I think I actually now understand what you're saying. This is the charge that I was talking about this entire time. Yeah, we didn't know it was assault at the time. It took us 30 days to investigate. When he pat the cop on the shoulder and said, "Good job, you're doing a good job, keep it up." It was only after 30 days of investigating that we now determined that that was assaulting on a police officer. Hold on, let me just go ahead and actually apologize to that person who, if you were trying to make me focus on the charge that I thought I was focusing on, thank you. Yeah, it took us 30 days. That time, I mean, what is the nature of the charge? What's the nature of the assault that is so ambiguous of assault? It took 30 plus days to bring that charge. So that's it. Oh, let's hear. James Top is in Alberta. Interview him in each province, Viva. He's a losing audience. Well, I mean, look, that's going to be James Top. I interviewed him last week. That's going to be something that's, look, he's not losing audience. It's just it fluctuates by days. It will, and it will be, when he gets to Ottawa. Viva is very understanding patient. No, sorry. The person who said I skipped the assault. First of all, I'm not skipping the assault. That is the crux of what I'm saying. The other charges, go look at his social media posts. Find out whether or not he said go call in the police lines and flood them to be a pain in the neck. Okay, fine. Handshake. We are in that realm of the world right now. Did they literally go to see video evidence and say that, oh, now we see Randy, I'm thinking out loud, and this could be the way it's explained. When the cops came down on the 18th, there's now video evidence. We didn't know who shoved back the police officer. Now in the kerfuffle of the bodies, we determined it was Randy Hillier who shoved a police officer. Hence, it took us a month to find that charge. Oh, here we go. I sent you a tweet. I sent a tweet to your Twitter page where Hillier said to keep calling. Okay, so hold on. Let me go get it right now. I have no vested interest in defending Randy Hillier or anyone else if they've done something objectively wrong. Let me go do that right now. So if I go to add to stream, let me see if I can do this. Okay, we're going to go here. Close that. Go back. Come on, man. So we're going to go Twitter/the Viva Fry. Oh, no. I have to go to not incognito. Okay, give me 1 second. I'll figure this out in real time as we do this. Or I'll just Twitter. Now I go to notifications. Randy Hillier turning himself into police. No, that's not the right one. I do not see in my mentions. So how do I do this, people? Viva Fry. No. I will find it. I just don't want to bore too many people here. If I go to here, Viva Fry, how do I see where I am mentioned? Okay, there's that. Will Smith. Maybe if I go Viva Fry and Randy. Sorry, guys, give me 30 seconds to try to pull this up as we do this. Okay, there's someone who's saying chill on Viva Fry. Okay, well, I can't find it. Someone put it in the chat. That's the easiest way to do this. Okay, let me close this up. If you can, put it in the chat right now. I'll go to the YouTubes and I will get that as it comes up, and then I'm going to read it. But I think I'm not sure that I doubt that it happened. Okay, go into the chat. I'm in the live chat on YouTube, so put in the link to the tweet. I will grab it and then we'll pull it up. I'm reading the chat. Someone says, Z, just kidding. Come on, man. Put it in there. Come on, man. Come on, Jack. You can put it in there. Okay. Well, when it comes, I'm a techno noob. Mark is right. Okay, forget it. We'll get back to that later. But we'll see. The assault on the police officer, what investigation had to occur in order for the officer who was allegedly assaulted to know that they were assaulted, to find out it was Randy Hillier, as if it could have been disguised or hidden at the time, to bring these charges. But that is it. I mean, this is, we're saying at the same time that our dear leader, Justin Trudeau, is being heckled, mocked, and humiliated before the European Parliament, talking about the creeping effect of the creeping totalitarianism in democracies. This is what's going on in Canada, and the circus around Ryan Hillier being arrested now. Okay, let's see here. Viva's notification has it as Randy. Go figure. What am I missing here? Put the link in the tweet, in the chat. We'll get to it. Anyhow, so that's the latest. We'll see now. David Anber, by the way, for those of you who don't know, I believe is publicly confirmed that he's representing Ryan Hillier, and he will be covering it. I mean, he'll be on it. Now, there's only so much that he can say publicly while this is an actual pending lawsuit, litigation against his client, criminal charges. But he's on it, and I like David a lot. He's good. Let me just go actually pull up his tweets, see if there's been any news. Share screen. Let's go to this one. Now let's go to this one. Okay, share, and we'll just see what's going on with / David Anber. Let's see here. Not much of an update, but I can advise that Randy Hillier this morning. Okay, not much of an update, but I can advise that Randy Hillier this morning. I have been in ongoing contact with the Crown. Due to some unforeseen delays, we expect the bail question to be dealt with sometime this afternoon. Negotiations are ongoing. I wonder if they're gonna argue for pre-trial detention of Randy Hillier. Oh yeah, and here we go. I can confirm that I am retained to Randy to address these charges starting bright and early tomorrow. You wonder if they're going to have the absolute audacity to try and detain Randy Hillier. Why do they want to make a martyr out of Hillier? I think they want. You only make a martyr out of an individual to the believers. You make an example out of the individual to the non-believers. Actually, that's damn good what I just said there. He will be a martyr to people who believe in the cause and to people who are themselves prepared to be martyrs. He'll be just the example to people who are not prepared to go to jail for a protest, and that's what the government is going for here. He'll make a martyr of him to the believers. That's without consequence. I mean, to the government. Those are their ideological adversaries already. Make an example of him to the middle ground non-believers, and you control future behavior based on this. So that's it. That's, I think, all the news thus far for today. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat that I missed. And did I miss anything? Anyone have any questions? Don't feel any need for super chats. I'll get to some questions that I can. Let's see here. We got Ninth Citizen. Wrong. He will be a martyr for anyone who speaks against the government for any reason. He will retroactively become a martyr when people realize that there's no amount of bending over backwards to placate tyrants. Until that time, people are going to say, well, okay, fine. He shouldn't have said that. He's got to live with the consequences. He shouldn't have made a tweet about calling in the police line. Now he's got to suffer the consequences. Even if those consequences are wickedly politicized and overblown. Just, be good, and you won't have to worry about the hammer falling on you until the hammer falls on you. They'll always find a reason. I'm not going to read Budapest. The refugees I met fresh from the train with their clothes in shopping bags did not speak of the corruption within their own government. Not sure what the angle is here, but I mean, yeah, it's incomprehensible, the idea of having to leave everything you've ever known at the drop of the hat. Who was it that we were talking to? My goodness, I feel terrible that it was I believe it was actually James Topp, who was talking about his experience in Yugoslavia, and he said one of the most poignant memories that he had was when he was in Yugoslavia, going through a house, and it was like the table was still set. That's how fast people had to flee everything they ever knew. And the idea of having to drop everything you've ever known, everything you've ever worked for, built, and leave with everything that you can carry, and then you still have to be selective, not knowing if you're ever going to get to go back, and if you ever do get to go back, what it's going to look like. There's nothing in the world that can prepare you for that, and I don't know how you cope with that. And the people in the context of this war, saying that if you have questions that you're minimizing this or explaining it away or justifying it, I mean that's fine. You're just trying to shut down. You're trying to shut down understanding, and above all else, it actually produces an environment where you are unable to get to an actual solution, because all you end up doing is ratcheting up the demonizing, not just of the parties, but of the peoples. And we're seeing it right now in real time. Oh, I just saw someone. You misread it, Viva. What did I misread? What did I misread? Viva. Okay, here. It said it did talk about the government corruption. Okay, I'm sorry. Jeez. Now, just bear in mind, I'm not saying I'm dyslexic and I've never been diagnosed. This happens, and imagine this happens on a test. I did my criminal law was the worst grade I ever got in law school. Thank you, people. They did speak of the corruption. Everything I said after that still follows. Like the idea, even if you speak of the corruption in your government, the idea, there's two things. I mean, who's anyone going to blame for the displacement? It would require some very, very, I won't say, it would require a special type of person to actually say, I blame this, if not entirely, at the very least, in part on my own government corruption. But by and large, what is forcing the displacement right now? It's not so much the government corruption or the wrongdoings of the government. It's the wrongdoings of the Russian military. So sorry. Thank you. Now imagine I did a criminal law exam. It was my worst grade ever in criminal law, where in French, complot and complice are two different things. Complice is an accomplice. Complot is a plot, is a conspiracy. Similar but different. And I confounded the two terms because in my head, I was just using them interchangeably. And the answer, as a result, was absolutely incomprehensible, and rightly so. When I realized this after the exam, and I was talking to someone, and they said, it didn't say complot, it said complice. I was like, ooh, and you immediately want to vomit. And I ran to the teacher's office even before he started correcting the exams. Anyhow, Viva, is free speech dead in Canada, especially if it doesn't fit the government narrative? It's certainly being weaponized, and they're certainly trying to criminalize in Canada, whether it's through Bill C-10, Bill C-16. The Bill C-16 was the one that added as aggravating factors gender identity, which Jordan Peterson at the time said is going to result in compelled speech or the criminalization of certain speech. He has been proven more right than wrong, but not entirely right, but he had foresight. That was Bill C-16. Bill C-10 is the one that wants to treat internet social media platforms like broadcasters under the Broadcasting Act, which is the piece of legislation that governs the CBC and Radio-Canada. So the government wants to exercise the same control over social media platforms, social media profiles. And they finally admitted they meant individuals that act like broadcasters. Bill, freedom of speech is at risk It's certainly very limited. I don't think it's dead, but it's on its way to being suffocated, to the point where you get regular citizens saying, yeah, I support more censorship for speech. And that's how you know. You don't even need legislation at that point. You can just have social media mobs carrying out the censorship. You can just have the social media mobs carrying out the government censorship that might not pass legislation, because you just condition people into thinking if anybody dares have opposite discourse, they should be demonized and deplatformed. And then you don't even need the government to do it. It's the most powerful tool in the world when you can get gullible citizens to do government bidding for the government, when you can get corporations to do what the government itself would never be allowed to do. That's more dangerous than a law that would be debated and shut down, and then you would see the government for the dictator tyrants that they are. Okay, Viva. Okay, can Trudeau be charged in the? No, I've seen the arguments. I mean, I've read about the lawsuit. It's the German doctor Reinmick. I'm not trying to mangle the name on purpose. I've read it. I read the criminal complaint in India that's going after Bill Gates and others. My short answer, no. It will never happen. It will never happen. I mean, what it would take for that to happen is I couldn't even envision it in any plausible realm of humanity. So no, I don't think so. All that Trudeau's going to get is lambasted and humiliated before European Parliament, but he's going to have his CBC state-funded media to cover his butt and pad that ego. Someone find the standing ovation business. Will got in one little fight because his wife's hair. Now he's moving with his auntie and uncle in Bel Air. There's a lot of jokes. There's a lot of jokes there. What else we got here? Compelled retired military. We are all ordered to write evaluations with non-gender descriptions. Compelled. And you again, you know, things that I don't retweet because I just can't tell if they're real. Apparently some primer, some instruction sheet at Home Depot talking about white privilege and what, you know, all this stuff. We're there. Will I cover Jeremy McKenzie's arrest? I'm going to have to Google it first because I don't know who or what happened. Now I'm having not a chest pain, people. I'm having a muscular pain under my right armpit, which cannot come from push-ups because I haven't done my push-ups in a little while, but I've been doing my exercise. Oh, yeah. Hold on a second here. Hold on. Viva, what is the status on Mr. Peckfort's lawsuit? Well, I interviewed his counsel last Friday, Keith Wilson. Fantastic 3-hour, literally a marathon. How long did it take? No, it's a little less. That's too fast for my marathon speed. I did a marathon in under 4 hours the first time. Did a 3-hour stream with him on Friday. Fantastically fascinating. It's pending, but I'm gonna ping him today. That is to say, Keith Wilson, to see if we can get Peckford on for a stream one day this week, because that would be absolutely phenomenal. And then we got here Kevin Wilson. Glad Chris Rock didn't. Okay, come on, man, that joke has already been done. But the truth in jest, and that truth in jest being, when I was in high school, we made a rock band called Truth in Jest, as in like to ingest it. But yeah, yeah, it was a great stream with Keith Wilson. It was phenomenal. Great interview. Thank you very much. And not me, Keith. Not everybody is able to sit down for 3 hours to have a meaningful discussion without going to the bathroom, I should say. I should also add. Wilson was amazing. What I said is he's the absolute perfect combination of confidence, charisma without arrogance. And it's an amazing thing because he's confident, charismatic, he knows what he knows, and he's unapologetic about it. But he does not come off or exude arrogance in any way whatsoever. And it makes him very, very fun to listen to and passionate to listen to. Okay, now I think that's it. That's it. Let's just share. Let's just add to stream and just go do one more thing to see if there's anything we missed on the Twitter webs. What am I sharing here? StreamYard, News Media. Which one's being shared here? Close this. Which one? I'm sharing a Twitter feed. Why can't I see it? Oh, David Amber. That's why. Okay, boom. So we're going to go here. We're going to go here. And geez, I just wish they were. I don't think they're live streaming Hillier's hearing this afternoon. Oh, that pike. Can't wait for the fishing season to start. Okay, so we got the Oscars. We got Randy Hillier. We got Tim Pool. Oh, you've got to go. Now, I'm not sharing the video because the video is not mine to share. In that, if I play the video, it will take away traffic that Matt Orfilia deserves for this magnificent masterpiece. This is so go to that tweet and then go to, I'm an idiot. Did I not share the video itself? Go watch that video and share Matt Orfilia's video montage of the Hunter Biden Russian disinformation campaign that was waged against that laptop. It's across state lines 2.0. And when you see it, I mean, you won't unsee it. It's just amazing. And I don't know how long it takes to put together that montage, but it's amazing. All right, best scene from Kill Bill 2, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's the video, which I don't want to play because I don't want them. Okay, I think we've covered everything we're going to cover today, people. Oh, I don't know if this guy's being I don't know if this is genuine or troll sarcasm. I now think it is because this individual posts videos with the most thoroughly extensive face mask. I don't even know what that's called. I think now it's a troll. At first, I thought it might have been sincere, and then a perfect pump yesterday. $113 to fill up my Subaru Ascent. And yes, I had let it get to the reserve tank. And yes, I know that's not good because whatever they're called, particulate matter. What's it called? Residue. Diagolan fiasco. I don't know. I'm going to look it up. And just to end on a white pill anecdote, I guess. So this was a legitimate perfect pump. No, I did not top it off for the picture because I would have done that a long time ago. This has happened to me twice in my life that I've gotten a natural perfect pump. And the first time it happened, before it had ever happened, I was on a road trip with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife. I think she knows this story. And I had always said, because we were going out and we had been going out for a long time, I think, by the time this happened. And I said that when we get a perfect pump on a road trip, I'm going to propose to her. Not then, but that's when I know that I'm going to propose to her and she's going to be my wife. And we got a perfect pump. And I think it was when we were driving from Montreal to Winnipeg. I got the perfect pump and I knew it then. I never told her until I proposed in December 2006 or 5, whatever. But that's how I knew. So yesterday was the second time in my life I got a natural perfect pump. $113 to fill up my 66-liter Subaru Ascent. All right, so that's it. It takes about 9.9 seconds to spend $1 at the pump. Yeah, no, not if you don't drive your car. Sediment, that's what I was looking for, from the bottom of the tank. Well, oh shoot, you know what? Now if my car is a problem and I'm not under warranty, there's video evidence that I've let it go down to the reserve tank too many times. I'm flying. If anyone has never seen Will Ferrell doing this on SNL and then starting to fly away, it's classic. Another thing I can't share because NBC also. Yeah. I'll push your car for $100. You won't push it at the speed that I need to get from point A to point B. Inflation, crime, border crises. Well, I can't. There might be some shared blame there, and I do blame the conservatives in Canada for having played along. I blame the Republicans in the United States, some of them, for now playing along with this. Oh, Winston, come here, come on, get over here. We'll end with the dog. Zena, now okay, hold on. Okay, now thanks everyone. Thank you. This was fantastic. Let's end with the dog. Let me see here. Am I going to get in trouble for this? Viva. CBC is government media. CTV Global, EAL are state-sponsored media. True North, Rebel, Black Locks are independent media. There's no question. I've been talking about this since the election. When I ran for office, that was the biggest thing I learned. The state-sponsored media, they're not. The corruption is not like here's a briefcase of 50,000. write a good story about me. It's actually so much more in your face. Here's $1 billion. Here's $1 billion because in the age of the internet, traditional media needs subsidies in order to succeed. No, they don't. They just need to be good. They need to be honest. They need to provide information that people want, and people want the truth, not state-sponsored crap. So it's not even a briefcase of 50,000. It's our $1 billion in tax. It's oh, you guys need a bailout? Here's $600 million. Let me make a joke about how I bought off the media, but I didn't really because I got 5 negative headlines. Yeah, no. You know what? Sorry, no, hold on. Oh man, yeah, I need to give him a bath because yesterday at the Sugar Shack, he's still quite dirty. We have to say, I love you. It's a good dog. I love Pudge as well. She just can't come downstairs. So he needs a bath. This is Winston's podcast now. So everybody, thank you very much. I think Ricade is live. I don't know who else is live, but look, if you want to continue growing the brain instead of rotting it, there is something meaningful to watch right now. Steven Crowder's Change My Mind is a great one. Ricado's live. You got Legal Bites, Legal Mindset, Nate the Lawyer, Uncivil Law. Who am I missing? Eric Hunley, Robert Barnes, obviously, People's Pundit. Who else? The Durand. There is no excuse not to broaden your intellectual perspectives by listening to something, even if you don't like listening to it. So with that said, people, I'll probably see you tomorrow. Who am I kidding? All right. Have a good afternoon. See you tomorrow.